Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. First of all, we would like to send our warmest and most heartfelt New Year wishes to all of you. A year has quietly come to an end, carrying with it countless memories, days filled with joy, as well as periods marked by difficulty, exhaustion, and challenges. Yet through all of it, love has always been present, along with simple moments that are gentle but unforgettable. We would like to express our sincere gratitude to all the viewers who have stayed, followed, and accompanied the channel throughout this journey. Your support, your words of encouragement, and even your quiet presence as listeners have been the motivation that keeps this channel going and sharing these everyday stories. May the new year bring everyone good health, peace of mind, and happiness alongside your loved ones. Today, the channel continues with a video about Hoài and Hùng, where the daily rhythm of their small family quietly goes on. There are no major events or dramatic twists, only moments that are simple and familiar. Yet it is precisely this simplicity that creates a sense of closeness and warmth. Morning in the small house begins like any other day, with gentle sunlight filtering through the windows, a calm atmosphere, and the familiar sounds of a family waking up. Everything unfolds slowly, without haste, as if everyone wants to hold on to the rare peace of the early hours. Tony has just recovered from a mild illness, and his body is still weak, so both Hoài and Hùng give him extra care compared to usual. From small tasks like washing his face, wiping his hands, straightening his clothes, to reheating the pot of porridge prepared the night before. Hoài checks each spoonful, gently blowing to cool it before feeding Tony, her eyes filled with concern though her voice remains soft and calm. Then comes preparing his medicine in the correct dosage, reminding him to take it slowly, and finally packing his school bag and supplies to get him ready for school. All of these tasks are carried out in quiet coordination between the two parents. No need for many words, just a glance is enough for them to understand each other. Although Hoài herself has not fully recovered from a cold, her body still tired and occasionally dizzy, she continues to move about gently. After finishing everything for Tony, she takes advantage of a short moment to go out to the garden, tending to the vegetable beds, pulling a few weeds, and checking on the familiar pots of greens. As she works, she keeps an eye on the house, afraid of overlooking anything left undone. Her slow, careful movements show her effort to maintain a normal routine despite not being fully well. As a result, the small home remains neat and orderly, reflecting the rhythm of life that Hoài has always tried to preserve. Hùng watches all of this from inside the house, from the way Hoài moves more slowly than usual, to the quiet coughs and the moments when she rubs her forehead in fatigue. He doesn't say much, only observes silently before stepping closer and gently encouraging her to rest more and not overexert herself. Hùng takes the initiative to handle the heavier tasks, from cleaning and carrying water to chores that Hoài usually does. There is no showiness in his actions, just a very natural, everyday kind of care. The atmosphere in the house becomes calm yet warm, like a familiar rhythm of life continuing to flow, slow, steady, and quietly binding each family member closer together. That day, Hùng left home quite early, when the morning air was still cool and the village road remained quiet with only a few passers-by. He went alone to the local market fair, carrying with him the familiar feeling of everyday livelihood, yet somewhere inside was a quiet sense of anticipation as Tet was drawing near. Markets in the days leading up to the Lunar New Year always have a very different atmosphere, more crowded, more lively. Buyers and sellers gather from early morning, calls, bargaining voices, and laughter blend together to create a distinctive soundscape that instantly lets one feel the breath of spring approaching. Hùng strolled leisurely past a few familiar stalls, greeting faces he had seen countless times before heading to the orange orchard he had arranged to visit. Before him stretched a spacious orange garden, rows of trees standing neatly in line, their branches heavy with fruit. The oranges were plump and round, their golden orange skins glowing under the early morning sunlight, radiating a sense of abundance and prosperity that felt perfectly suited to the spirit of Tet. The fruits were uniform in size, not too large, not too small, exactly the kind people like to buy as gifts or to display on the family altar during the holidays. Standing in the middle of the orchard, Hung looked around, a quiet sense of satisfaction rising within him, as if much of his earlier fatigue had been gently eased. He and the orchard owner began harvesting together, working while chatting, the rhythm of labor natural and unforced. Each orange was carefully cut down, thoughtfully selected, and neatly placed into baskets. Hung's hands moved quickly, practiced yet attentive to every small detail, careful not to bruise or scratch the fruit. The baskets gradually filled and were then carried to a small stall prepared in advance at the market. There, the oranges immediately caught the attention of nearby shoppers. People stopped to take a look, asked a few questions, picked up the fruit to examine it, nodded in approval, and made their selections. Some bought a few kilograms for their own families, others purchased larger amounts to give to relatives. The trading was lively but still retained the warmth and closeness unique to a rural market. Watching each bag of oranges being handed over, hearing simple compliments like, "These oranges are beautiful, they're so evenly sized," or, "Just looking at them, you can tell they'll be sweet," Hung couldn't help but feel pleased and encouraged. It wasn't just the joy of making sales, but the feeling that his effort was being recognized. The enthusiastic support from the local people made him feel the trust they placed in him and gave him more motivation to think ahead to the days to come. While his hands were busy weighing oranges and packing orders, a clearer plan began to form in his mind. He thought about buying the entire orchard and managing the harvest himself to meet the rising demand as Tet approached. If everything went smoothly, the oranges would not only bring extra income to the family, but also help ensure a more comfortable holiday, easing some of the burdens for Hoài and Tony. Those thoughts flowed one after another, intertwined with images of Hoài at home tending the garden and caring for their child, strengthening Hung's determination even more. He understood that every decision he made now was closely tied to the life of the whole family, and therefore needed to be considered carefully. Once the orange sales settled down, Hung packed up the stall, said goodbye to everyone, and prepared to head home. On the way back, he stopped by a few familiar vendors to buy necessities. He carefully selected some fresh meat for dinner, picked up a few packets of seeds for the upcoming planting season, and bought small household items Hoài had asked for earlier. Each item was neatly placed into his basket, not merely daily necessities, but quiet expressions of the care he held for his wife and child. The road home wasn't far, but it gave Hung enough time to sort through his thoughts. He reflected on the busy morning, the fruit-laden orchard, the satisfied expressions of customers, and then turned his thoughts back to the small house waiting for him. As soon as he reached the gate, he felt the familiar sense of peace and belonging, the feeling that always drew him back, no matter where he went. In the afternoon, when Tony returned home from school, the house instantly became livelier. The sound of a child's footsteps on the path, calls for his parents, and clear, cheerful laughter awakened the space after a quiet day. Tony's presence brought with it a special kind of energy, making the small house feel vibrant again. Hung and Hoài began decorating the house together in preparation for Tet. Nothing elaborate, just familiar tasks carried out with excitement and anticipation. One hung up lights, the other strung decorations. Each wire and each small bulb was carefully adjusted so the light would spread evenly across the yard. When the lights were finally switched on, a warm glow illuminated every familiar corner, creating a feeling that was both new and deeply comforting. Tony ran around excitedly, sometimes stopping to watch his parents work, sometimes playing in the yard, laughing non-stop. The child's excitement spread to the adults, making the afternoon feel warmer and more pleasant. In the small kitchen, Hoài began preparing dinner, while Hung helped light the stove and arrange the utensils. The scent of grilled meat slowly filled the air, blending with the coolness of the year's end and evoking the familiar feeling of days just before Tet. There was no need for elaborate dishes or a lavish feast, just that simple aroma was enough to soften the heart. The small kitchen, the warm yellow light, the quiet voices, and the full presence of each family member came together to create a scene of everyday togetherness. Everything unfolded slowly and naturally, like a familiar rhythm of life continuing to flow, quiet yet enduring, keeping that small family closely bound as the final days of the year gently drew to a close. From that moment on, the atmosphere of Tet became fuller and more vivid, clearly felt in every small daily activity of the family. When every corner of the house had been neatly decorated and the lights lit up the entire yard, Tet no longer felt distant. It was present in every glance and gentle gesture shared between Hoài and Hùng. Together, they began preparing the gifts, carefully arranging each item as if placing their thoughtfulness and heartfelt care for Hung's mother into every package. The gift bags were wrapped neatly, not overly elaborate but complete in their own way, enough to reflect the love and concern of children and grandchildren at the end of the year. Tony was also dressed neatly, his face brighter than usual with excitement, knowing he was about to visit his grandmother. The whole family set off together in an atmosphere that was lively yet deeply warm. Along the way, their conversations revolved around familiar things, Tet, the days ahead, simple matters that nonetheless carried a sense of anticipation. Tony chatted happily, while Hoài and Hung exchanged gentle glances, silently sharing the same joy of being part of a more complete family gathering. When they arrived at Hung's mother's house, the familiar space appeared with its own quiet warmth, carrying the peaceful feeling of a home shaped by many years of memories. There, they met Tieu and CEO Hai, with little Ivy by their side, small and adorable. Their presence instantly made the space feel fuller and more cheerful. Greetings, smiles, and gentle hugs created an atmosphere of closeness, as if all distances were erased in that moment. With her innocent look, bright eyes, and endearing gestures, little Ivy quickly became the center of attention, bringing laughter to both adults and children. Tony soon blended into the lively mood as well, curiously observing and playing around, making the house feel even more alive. The two families gathered together, sitting down to chat and share everyday stories. There was no need for grand topics, just checking in on one another's health, reminiscing about old memories, and talking about the past year with all its mixed emotions. In that space, warmth spread naturally, without effort or display. Everyone worked together to prepare the Tet meal, someone washing vegetables, someone arranging bowls and chopsticks, someone seasoning the dishes. Each person had a role, yet all moved in the same rhythm. These familiar actions, repeated year after year, took on a deeper meaning during these days, like a ritual preparing for the important moment of transition ahead. Alongside the cooking, the house was further decorated to enhance the Tet spirit. Small details were adjusted and added, and each corner gradually became brighter and cozier. Lights, colors, and the sound of laughter blended together, creating a scene that felt very ordinary yet deeply special, one unique to the final days of the year. Hoài and Hung were in no hurry, nor were Tieu and Hai. Everyone seemed to want to fully savor every moment spent with family, with their loved ones. Time passed slowly as they all waited for the sacred moment when the old year would gently come to an end. The atmosphere in the house was both lively and quietly reflective. Amid the conversations and the children's laughter, everyone could feel that this was not just an ordinary gathering, but a time to look back on the journey they had been through and to turn their hearts toward what lay ahead. Without needing to say it out loud, the bond between the family members was clearly present, silent yet strong, forming a solid foundation as they stepped into the new year, filled with hope waiting just beyond the threshold. Inside the house at that moment, the glow from the decorative lights blended with the indoor lighting, creating a space that felt bright yet incredibly gentle. Laughter and conversation flowed steadily, not loud or overwhelming, but just enough to fill every corner, allowing everyone to clearly feel the warmth and liveliness spreading through the room. Hoài sat beside Hùng, her eyes quietly drifting toward Tony from time to time, then softening into a smile whenever she saw her child happily enjoying himself with everyone. Hùng was there too, saying little, yet his steady presence felt like a familiar anchor, making the atmosphere feel even more complete. Tony sat among the adults, sometimes listening attentively to his grandmother's stories, other times turning to look at Tieu and little Ivy with a childlike curiosity. Ivy, small and delicate in someone's arms, would occasionally giggle, then stare around in wide-eyed wonder, melting everyone's heart without a word. Tieu sat nearby, her gaze growing gentler as she looked at her child, occasionally chatting with Hoài and sharing simple, heartfelt stories filled with mutual understanding. Hoài sat close by, quietly observing, joining the conversation with thoughtful, measured words, enough to feel close, never distant. Hung's mother sat in her usual spot, watching her children and grandchildren gathered together, her face reflecting a deep sense of reassurance and contentment. No grand words were needed, just seeing the house filled with laughter and the presence of her loved ones was enough for her to feel her own quiet sense of fulfillment. Each person carried different emotions and roles, yet all were fully present in that moment, coming together to form a complete family portrait, one where the bonds of kinship felt clearer than ever. That space was more than just a simple reunion, it was a sense of peace after a year filled with many changes. Stories of the past year were recalled gently, without heaviness, as if to softly close the door on worries and hold on only to what was warm and meaningful. Amid the glowing lights and interwoven laughter, everyone could feel the hope of a new year approaching, hope for health, for peace, and for more days spent together. The moment passed slowly, with no one in a hurry, as if everyone wished to hold on a little longer to this rare feeling of togetherness. The house was small, yet complete, not because of material things, but because of the presence of each family member, because of the quiet but enduring bonds that held them all together. And as the moment of transition drew closer, every emotion remained intact within that space. Stay tuned for the next episode to continue following the moments of New Year's Eve and the journey of this extended family, as each story continues to unfold quietly, woven together in a rhythm of life that is simple, genuine, and filled with love.
Tạm biệt mọi người nhé.